Radical customer intimacy. Stop servicing, start owning. Let's get going. The TLDR, the quick version of this presentation is as follows. When AI can replace 70% of standard output, 70% of standard output of your agency, and information is a free commodity or 20 euros a month, agencies have got to shift from being mere vendors to becoming indispensable strategic partners. The only lasting competitive advantage that we now have, a moat, I would argue, with radical customer intimacy, RCI for short, which is a deep, irrational knowledge of a client's business. And that allows an agency to start to predict their needs. I mean, if I asked you on a score out of 10, you could actually put it in the chat very quickly. If I ask you on a score out of 10, how good is your customer service? What sort of numbers do you put in there? What sort of numbers do you put in when you say, how good is your customer service? Because that's kind of the clue. To just pop that in the chat. And then when we ask another question, which is how do the clients actually rate you? Score out of 10. How do the clients actually rate you? Thank you. When you actually ask your clients, how do your clients actually rate you? What sort of score out of 10 do they give you? What sort of numbers do we then get? And the interesting thing is how we see it and how the customers actually see it. We have Remini Royal on the call, which is fantastic. The general experience of the difference between those numbers is much larger than you've actually reported. Okay, so you say, and actually Remini's research says, so we can talk about that afterwards, that there isn't a massive gap between what clients think of us and what we think of them. But the research that we did at Director Center, which was with agencies and then with professional service firms, and the work that's done by the large consultancy houses is that roughly, if you go to your clients and you say, do you really love us? Agencies say, in 80% of cases, our clients really love us. They think we're actually fantastic. But when you then go and talk to the clients and say, do you really love them? Only about 8 or 9% say they do. The reported gap traditionally is much larger than we think it is. And I think that's kind of in a way a starting point for the conversation. So, agenda for today. What is the reality? What is this new mode? What is this trust equation we need to actually make happen? An argument that there's 3 levels of a relationship we can use in order to actually get this customer intimacy going. There's a FIMO PC lens we can use. And then we should be moving from brief taker to predictor. I think there's some strategic segmentation, very posh phrase, isn't it? And then an action plan. So let's get going firstly with the reality, okay? So the reality is you are already replaceable. You are already replaceable. Sorry to break that news to you. You are already replaceable. AI now handles roughly 70% of standard agency output. The number is generally considered. And if you sell deliverables, your price is heading towards 0. When I ask agencies, how many of the existing agencies will still be in business in 3 years' time, the number varies between about 30% and 50%. And when you then ask, how many of you will be in the 30 or 50% that's going to survive, all the hands go up. And it's like, male drivers all think they're above average. There is going to be quite a lot of agencies disappearing. They're not all going to be there. And we just kind of have to make sure that we're in the winning team, not in the losing team. So the way we need to look at this is as follows, right? Firstly, your knowledge is no longer your moat. It was your moat for years, okay? And secondly, AI can replace 70% of your output. What is that remaining 30% that AI can't do? What it can't do the judgment born from experience. It can't do trust. It can't do genuine empathy, it can't do moral courage, it can't do original provocation, it can't read the room, it can't do the account, it can't see you twitching, can't see the client twitching, it can't know that the client's worried about their pension going down, it can't know that the client is worried about having to sack someone, it can't know that the client's just had bad numbers. All that AI can't do, and that's the sweet stuff, that is the added value stuff that we can do. Your clients are more informed than ever, and they're less loyal. And the question isn't, are you good? The question is are you replaceable? So, because what protects you, what makes you irreplaceable is not your tools. It's not your team size. It's not your tech stack. It's this sense of intimacy and knowing people, deep, radical, almost irrational knowledge of your client's business, their ambitions, their fears, their politics, their blind spots. So let's just consider what the new moat is. I'm arguing that intimacy is the only lasting competitive advantage. Where technical skill met market knowledge, that's the place, that's the Venn diagram that we've worked on and lived on for years. But my argument is that now this radical intimacy, this radical customer intimacy is kind of a glue, which is the added bonus that will separate us, which will differentiate us, which will make us better, which will make us different, which will make us add significant value in this amazingly commoditized world that we're in. The information moat has dried up. In 2010, your expertise, your experience was a moat. Clients needed you. They had to buy how to do PPC, how to design a website, how to do customer experience. They had to buy that from you. And now they can get that for $20 a month. They don't need it. They know that's what you do. And AI has accelerated the commoditization of what we do. And more services, because we can now do more services, actually creates more complexity. It doesn't differentiate us. It makes us ironically look more like other people, because breadth without width is this generalist trap, this commodity trap that so many agencies seem to be heading towards. Clients don't need a supplier. What they need is a strategic partner. They can get the supplier for $5 a month from Bangalore. They can get it for $20 a month from ChatGPT. So how do we move on? And the answer really to get a sense of that is a sense of this trust equation. This is an equation that I keep loving and hating over the years. It's by David Meister, who specialized in working with accounting firms and consulting firms. He's retired now. And it looks very posh, and that's why I don't like it, because it's T equals C plus R plus I over S. But if we actually break down what that means, it's much more simple. It's not quite as fanciful as we make it out. Trust is credibility. How credible are you? How believable are you? Have you got the case studies? Have you got the testimonials? Have you got the video testimonials? Have you got the client names? Have you got the reputation on the street? Plus, reliability. Do you do what you do? Do you turn up? Is there an absolute fit between what you say on your website and the way in which you behave and your values? Plus, intimacy. So to become more trusting, you try and increase your credibility, you try and increase your reliability, you try and increase your intimacy. And that's divided by your self-orientation. The more you talk about yourself, the more you think about yourself, the more you crush the trust. So in order to improve that trust, if this is a mathematical equation, which it kind of is, you need to up the C, the I, and you need to decrease the S. Do your very best to do that. One more person coming in, I'll just let them in. So This is kind of like the math of indispensability, if that makes sense. We need to make ourselves indispensable. How do we do that? We do that by creating the trust that we actually want and need, and they want and need and love. Because GYDA argument about radical customer intimacy is that knowing your client so deeply, you can predict, you can prompt, you can shape that future. That's what radical customer intimacy is about. It's not about servicing them. It's about investing in them. It's not about responding to briefs. It's about generating strategy. And it's not asking, what do you need, which we endlessly do. Hi, why are you having this meeting? What do you need? How can we help you? It's, here's what you need and here's why. It's taking on a much more proactive approach. So what are the 3 levels of the relationship that you can have? Well, 3 levels to stop servicing and start owning. Lower level is the kind of, I'm an expert in my subject, I know everything I do, but really you're just a vendor. And what you're doing is you're saying, yeah, I can do the job. And they're going to you, can you do the job? And you're going, yeah, I can do the job. And it's kind of baseline. The next level up is, when we have reliability and we collaborate, we are more of a partner. And it becomes, they're thinking, the client's thinking, can I work with you? Do I trust them? Are they reliable? Are they the sorts of people I want to work with? That's much better. There's a proper conversation. You're not just a vendor supplier. You're actually a bit of a partner working together with them. So to the vendor, they say, I got £1,000 of budget. I want you to do PPC for me. When you're a partner, they say, I've got £1,000 of budget. How do you think I should spend it? It's getting better. And then the top level is this idea of the strategic lead, the David Meister calls it trusted advisor, the wisdom, where you become indispensable to them. And this is where they're asking you, do you have my back? This is where they're saying to you, have we got the right marketing strategy in place? They're asking you, what do you really think of our product mix? They're asking you, way more deep and more intimate pieces of conversation. And the GYDA RCI, the GYDA customer intimacy, is that you become the agency that becomes part of their competitive advantage. I love my accountant, and people should be saying, I love my agency, but they don't. What's happened is our agency has become, like a tax. In order to trade, you used to pay rent. Now you don't pay rent, you pay for PPC, or you pay for CX or UX, or you pay for an e-com agency. And that's part of doing business, is you have to pay that tax. And that's how people feel about it. They don't feel that agencies are adding awesome value. They're feeling that it's part of a tax. And that's not the place we want to be in. That's not the place I want agencies to be in. That is my mission, to actually sort that one out. So a bit of a how-to around those 3 levels of relationship. We use this FIMO-PC model in GYDA, the GYDA business, all the time. Finance, marketing, and operations is at the top. And we say that how you score your marketing plus how you score your operations, put those together, that creates your financial performance. Scores out of 10, where 10's a high score, 0 is a low score. And that's the kind of the root model. Finance is a consequence of how good you are at marketing and operations. The better you are at marketing or operations, the better your finance. But the worst, And if you're pants at marketing and operations, your finance will be pants. And if you're awesome at marketing and operations, your finance will be awesome. Marketing and stuff. And then, of course, we know that's underwritten by people and culture. The phrase culture eats strategy for breakfast. So you can use the FIMO-PC model, getting into your clients, getting intimate with your clients. You can know more than the client expects, more than the client expects from you. You can know more than the client, especially if you're in a niche. So in finance, about their finances, you should be asking them, what's the real financial pressure right now? You should be asking them, how has financial performance been this quarter compared with year on year? You should be asking them, are your finances in line with how you want them to be? Yes, this is becoming more consultative. Yes, this is stepping out from that old thing of, digital agencies. Most of them are really glorified classified ads in the back of the paper. This is stepping out from the fact that, Google made us think that digital marketing and marketing were the same thing, and they're not. Digital marketing is just part of the bigger piece. This is about you becoming part of the bigger piece. Around their marketing and sales, it's about you asking them, what is your go-to-market strategy? It's around asking them, what is working? What has worked? Asking them, who are your best clients? Why do they buy from you? Asking them, what is it that your clients really value? So getting into talking to them in a way more, dare I use the horrible word, holistic. Asking them about their operations, where are the bottlenecks? Where are the blockers? What are the easiest things to make? What are the hardest things to make? Where are the defects coming in? And around their people and culture, asking them, who are the power players? What is the politics going on inside the business? You're getting inside their heads, under their skin, and therefore you're able to add more value, and you're doing something that AI can't do. So what would the move be from being the brief taker, which you currently are now, to becoming the predictor? This is kind of the thing I want to talk about. You need to predict before you brief, before you're briefed. And it's like there's like a ladder, You need, with your clients, you need to know more. You need to look at everything and understand, what are they actually worried about? Don't just say, oh, you want £1,000 of PPC per month or £10,000 of PPC per month. Don't just say, oh, you want to increase from 1,000 to 2,000 clicks. Don't just take, oh, we need a nicer website. Don't just take, we need more clients. Really dig in. You need to say more. Tell them what the data means for the business, what it means for their job security, what it means for their bonus. Be honest, radical candor. It's not about bullying, but tell them stuff they don't know. AI will enable you to do that, but it's how you say that stuff that matters. So you challenge them more. You're braver. You tell them that they're spending money in the wrong place or in the way. You tell them that if they do that, they're going to be wasting money. You tell them that until the website's sorted out, you can't help them. You tell them that if that's really where they want to go, they're going to need to do this, that, and the other, and they're going to actually have to invest more. And you predict. You send a brief before they even ask for it. Before they ask for the strategy update, you send them the brief. You predict what their needs are, what their wants are, what their hurts are, before they've even done it, before they've even thought about it themselves. So it's almost like a sense of relief. Oh, they've told us this stuff. Thank God now we don't have to worry about it because we know what we're doing. And the bit that's going to be really squeaky bottom time is maybe share the risk. Maybe you have to put some skin in the game. Now that's the kind of the optional extra, which makes the whole thing different. But my point is that we need to be doing more with our clients than we have done before. My point is that they need a strategic partner, not a vendor, not a seller. They need someone who is actually on their side. They need someone who believes in them. They need someone who isn't just taking the money and running. And that's about you being up to speed, ahead of the game, skin in the game, understanding what they really want, actually really, really helping them. So that would suggest you need to maybe segment the market, because not everyone's going to want to buy that kind of service from you. And you can't be intimate with everyone. So let's just have a little look here about who you can be. This is had to be a 2x2 somewhere in here. Across the top, we're looking at profitability, and up the side, we're looking at customer intimacy. My argument would be, obviously, the highly profitable, highly intimate relationships, that's the strategic partner. That's the gold standard. That's where you get the highest loyalty and where you get the highest retention. And my friends, if there's one thing you want to measure in your business to increase profitability, it is retention. Retention gives you more than anything else. An extra 3 months out of 3 clients It'll do more good for your profit than getting 3 new clients. And of course, delivering extraordinary good value because of your extraordinary intimacy means you're able to premium price. This is called the Veblen good. So this is the place where you want to be. High profitability, high customer intimacy. You could not have the profitability, but have the intimacy. That would mean this is like when you're a startup where you're best friends with everyone, but you're not making any money because your pricing isn't right and you're customizing everything. So you have those deep client relationships, but you don't have the margins. That's the altruist. Be careful about being the altruist. And then there's that place where there is high profitability, but no intimacy. That's kind of, that transactional high volume thing. It's like being a supermarket. And the trouble through that profit through volume stuff is that the clients rotate very, very quickly. Remember, retention is the place where the most profit lies. And the one box you don't want to be in is that bottom left-hand corner, which is no real customer intimacy. You don't really care about them, and you're not making any profit. So there's no competitive advantage. You're probably dealing with price-sensitive customers, and the whole thing goes in the wrong direction. So you can't be intimate with everyone. So I'm suggesting there's a top tier 1, maybe your top 5 to 10 clients where you build radical intimacy. That's where you do it. You give them senior time, you use client intelligence files, you create monthly strategic rhythms, you have proactive insight, you work with the tier 1s obsessively because that's where all the value is. And then you have kind of tier 2s, which are the solid, serviceable people, but you just don't give them quite so much individual intimacy, but you still have the systemized intimacy. You can still reach out, you can still talk to them, you can still share stuff with them, but you're just not, overly doing it. And then the others, they're the wrong fits. Just exit them gracefully. They have the wrong expectations, unreasonable demands. It's never going to turn around. You can exit them out on price, but if the people are the wrong fit, maybe you just shouldn't be working with them. So what is the commercial case? I'm not going to give you the numbers, but radical customer intimacy is a revenue strategy. Retention is the name of the game. All the numbers. It costs you 8 times more to acquire a customer than to keep a customer. It costs you 7 times more. Clients who retain are more likely to be ambassadors. They're more likely to tell other people. They're less likely to leave, all that kind of stuff. It's expansion revenue. It's revenue you didn't think you were going to get. The cost of sale is nothing. And this human layer creates what's called the Veblen good. The Veblen good is where people pay a disproportionately high price for a product because it's a quality product and it's limited and it's not available to everyone. So they pay the high price. It's an upward sloping demand curve. One of the few cases. We know, 90% of customers would pay more for a superior customer experience. 90%, that's nearly everyone would pay more. God, I'd pay more to have, a nicely served cup of coffee. I've never go to coffee. God, I'd pay more to have a phone company that would actually, or an internet company that actually, or a telephone that actually answers the phone to me. And the value difference. Here's another bit. There's something like a 7-time difference in value in the business over 5 years. Look at the numbers. Old Bucket Limited. If the retention level is 75%, but the agency is growing at 20%. So versus retention is maintained at 90%. With a 1.2% growth spend. Look how a typical business, goes from creeping up to creeping down. The value point is so great and so different if you got the retention sorted out. And that's what radical customer excellence does for you. And I always like to think, if Carlsberg did websites, if Carlsberg did PPC, if Carlsberg did CX, what would it be like? How would it feel like? And that's kind of really what we're talking about. We're talking about just blowing the socks away of our clients, and I think we kind of lost the plot. We just lost the plot. I'm afraid we kind of became suppliers and factories. Make the brief, give them the price, deliver the work. but not add the awesome value. AI has meant that we are looking down the telescope from the wrong end. We're worrying about ourselves and how it's going to affect us and our outputs and our deliverables, and not thinking about how can we deliver awesome value for money? How can we deliver the awesome value for money? So I guess the North Star in a way is, are you the agency that clients can't imagine having? In other words, you're so good, they'd love to have you. And if you're not that agency that's so good, that's the work you've got to do to figure out how to make that happen. So if we go through the agenda, an action plan, I'll give you some ideas. This month, I would design an intimacy onboarding process. Every new client gets a 90-minute deep dive discovery. The first 30 days are based around that FIMO PC model. So what's real? Talk about marketing, operations, talk about people and culture. Secondly, I'd create a proactive intelligence brief, a template, one insight, one recommendation, half a page sent monthly to your tier 1 clients. It might look a bit like this, here's the one insight. The context is based on our continuous monitoring of the market, the bottleneck, what's going on. We've identified a shift in finance, the market, the economy, operations you're doing, how AI works, in those dynamics. Our insight is, while the standard reports show blah, our FIMO PC lens or whatever reveals some kind of deep, non-obvious observation about their business ambitions or their fears. So you just go, give them that insight. And then you make the recommendation. We recommend you do this, that, or the other. Why do you do it now? Take this step immediately. We'll address this issue. And this will help you to do this by then. And then you talk about anticipated outcome and risk. Here's a primary benefit. And then here's our commitment. We're prepared to do this to help you make this happen. Something like that to get them more engaged and get them more committed and get them more on board. I run an intimacy audit, score yourself 1 to 10 on each element of the trust equation, for every active client. Just go back, look at that and score yourself out of 10 and think about how you could improve their scores. And I'd set one intimacy-specific KPI for each major account. For instance, by the end of this quarter, we'll have had a strategic conversation. By the end of this quarter, And then in the quarter, I'd introduce monthly client satisfaction scores, 1 to 10 for all your tier 1s. I build client intelligence files for the top 5 clients, maybe 1 a week. I do client segmentation, tier 1, tier 2, exit, and plan the graceful exits. And I'd identify the exit clients that make the plan to replace the revenue. The market has changed. I guess the question really is have you? And the question isn't, are you good? The question is are you replaceable? And I guess my final line, and then we'll throw this open to conversation, is the line that we should be giving to our clients. What are you most worried about in your business right now? Because that's the start of the conversation with clients, to get them talking broadly, holistically, if you want to use that word, about what's keeping them awake at night and how we can help them run better businesses. Because I think that's what our job is. That's what our role is to help them run better businesses. No one wakes up in the morning and says, I want a PPC agency, but they do wake up in the morning and say, I want more better clients. I want a more profitable business. And I believe our role, our job is to help them do that. But the only way we can do that is by getting close and getting intimate and getting to understand what their hurts, fears, feelings, worries, and so on are. So that's customer intimacy. Thank you very much for listening. Let's throw open the room to questions and answer, and simultaneously I will turn the recording off. Thank you very much for listening.